You've been there. You catch yourself locked onto a blank wall, a coffee cup, or just empty space, completely unblinking. The strange part isn't the stare itself, it's that you are entirely aware you're doing it. You know you look a bit odd, but you feel completely detached from the controls. Your brain registers that you should probably blink or turn your head, but actually executing that movement feels incredibly heavy. It's as if simply looking away requires lifting a 50-pound weight. It raises an uncomfortable question. Is this temporary physical paralysis just a harmless quirk, or is your neurological hardware actively glitching out? This temporary freezing is a deliberate aggressive override, a biological safety measure to protect your hardware from burning out. This gauge compares brain weight to energy consumption. Despite being 2% of your body mass, it burns 20% of your daily energy. Sustaining external focus completely drains these reserves. To prevent bankruptcy, your brain activates a screensaver called the default mode network. When the DMN takes over, it actively suppresses the visual processing centers in your brain. Your eyes stay open, but they are effectively turned off, acting merely as unseeing lenses while your attention pivots entirely inward. Behind that blank stare, your brain is actually quite busy. It uses this offline period to sort through recent memories, organize abstract ideas, or run background thoughts that it couldn't compute while you were focused on external tasks. Think of it as a micro break. The duration of your stare is the exact time your visual cortex needs to cool down and recover. Your brain is forcing your visual system into a mandatory, life-saving hibernation, prioritizing recovery over the feeling of being frozen. But that still leaves the strangest part of the experience. Why does your brain actively fight your conscious desire to snap out of it? This diagram illustrates a concept called cognitive inertia. Your resting default mode network is comfortable and highly efficient. Switching back to the large, heavy external task network requires a massive, sudden spike in energy to overcome the friction. Your brain calculates that snapping back to reality voluntarily just isn't worth the energetic cost. Forcing yourself to move feels like climbing a mountain, but a sudden external shock, like someone calling your name, bypasses the calculation and shatters the inertia instantly. There are 4 distinct environmental triggers that force this system online. The most common is mental fatigue and severe sleep deprivation. If you are running on empty, your brain enforces these required breaks just to survive the day. The second trigger is extreme boredom. If you're trapped in a repetitive task or a dull meeting, the severe understimulation prompts your brain to seek its own entertainment internally. On the opposite end, intense overstimulation in a noisy, stressful environment can cause your brain to disconnect as a protective shield. Finally, deep abstract processing, like getting lost in a complex problem or an old memory, will naturally override your perception of the physical room. Whether driven by exhaustion, understimulation, or overwhelming stress, that paralyzing physical resistance is just your brain acting as a strict accountant, refusing to spend a single drop of energy on the outside physical world unless it is absolutely necessary. For the vast majority of people, everyday cognitive inertia is completely healthy. However, there are strict medical boundaries where a blank stare actually indicates a system failure. The most frequent misdiagnosis is an absent seizure. The absolute differentiator here is awareness. During an absent seizure, there is a total lack of conscious awareness and zero memory of the time that passed. If you know you are staring while it is happening, you can relax. It is neurologically impossible for that lapse to be an absent seizure. The second red flag is inattentive ADHD. If you find yourself involuntarily and constantly zoning out mid-conversation or while driving, to the point that it actively damages your daily productivity and relationships, it may be time to consult a doctor. The most severe exception is trauma-induced dissociation. This is when the stare is accompanied by terrifying sensations, like floating entirely outside your physical body, or a persistent feeling that the world around you is fabricated and fake. The diagnostic line is clear. A healthy 1,000-yard stare is a temporary resting state you remain conscious of, while a medical glitch involves a total, involuntary loss of time, physical control, or connection to reality. But those exceptions aside, the overwhelming majority of us are just experiencing normal, highly functional cognitive inertia. So the next time you catch yourself locked onto a blank wall, stop fighting the temporary paralysis. Drop the guilt of zoning out and simply allow your default mode network to execute its required rest cycle undisturbed. The 1,000-yard stare is proof of a highly evolved biological machine, expertly managed.